was the famous Mozart Concerto in G major for flute. And we will be exploring the classical period with some of those great pieces. Now, you may recognize this piece by Mozart. That was from his famous Eine kleine Nachtmusik. And another excerpt I'd like to play. Was from his Magic Flute opera. So what do all of those things have in common other than being composed by Mozart? Well, their style. And I hope you've been listening in this journey to those musical examples and how music has changed and evolved over these years. Well, in the classical style, it was a return to a more simple, playful, melodic line with simple accompaniment. But Mozart would totally blow that out of the water with his distinct classical style. And when you hear Mozart, you are hearing classical music. And most people can recognize Mozart because of that. Now, the classical period was from 1750 to 1820. And this was a very significant change for the flute also because of the writing for the bigger orchestras. The design and construction of the flute would again be modified for the demands of a bigger, more present sound and a consistent design that would make for better tuning, for sound projection. And in a new design, the embouchure, which is the tone hole, and the keys would be added. The embouchure would be redesigned for that bigger, more robust sound. Now, this would all standardize technique, tonguing, articulation, phrasing, all of those very delicate but important aspects to create a unifying sound across the orchestra. Now, the symphony, the genre of symphony, emerged with Franz Joseph Haydn, and he gets the distinction of being Papa Haydn, the father of the symphony. And then in that excerpt I played from Mozart, his operas would become very popular and would define the classical opera. Now, another important composer that we should mention, who kind of bridges this period of music into the next, but he is Beethoven. And Beethoven would, in his writing, expand the orchestra by bringing in and making use of instrument families. Now, the piccolo would be solidified as an important addition to the thematic works of later Romantic composers. And we will explore that in my next video when we talk about the Romantic period. But Beethoven, in his Symphony No. 5 and No. 9, employed the use of the piccolo to be used for a heroic and a triumphant passage. And the brilliance of that tiny instrument creates a sparkling sound that rises above the orchestra. And then composers, as I said, after Beethoven, they would lean into these musical moments to create what we call program music. And program music means music that tells a story or a theme is attached to that piece. And this program music would dominate the Romantic period. So we'll cover that and all of the next significant changes in the flute and its construction in my next video. But back to the classical. Now, there is so much history to unpack, and this period, if we switch gears for just a moment in the classical, this is also known as the golden age of hymns in the church. And for the American hymn writing, we get our hymns such as Amazing Grace, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing, Come Thou Long Expected Jesus, and Just As I Am. Those hymns would come out of this time period. And I have extensive videos on my YouTube page of examples of those particular hymns if you would like to jump over and listen to those. Now, this YouTube page is meant to just educate and entertain and hopefully give you some insightful information if you're a flutist about how to approach your flute playing. So if you like this content that I produce, would you please subscribe, share, and like these videos? It really helps, and I would appreciate your comments too. Now, the next period of music, we're going to cover the Romantic period, but we can't forget about the human spirit. This spirit of humanity, as we're seeing, is expressed through music, and it came from not as mere entertainment, but as a spiritual force. Then it shifted to reason and philosophy and artistry. But through it all, there is a search for emotional connection, and that one defining line that connects all of these eras of music is that human need of searching and longing for connection. So the human spirit is going to continue this odyssey into the next era, the Romantic period. And this ebb and flow of reason and enlightenment to an outpouring of deep emotional internal struggle. So where we came from and where we are now, it's still the same. We want connection, and every period of music is expressing this same desire through its varying methods. So we will explore that in the next video. But I want to end today with one more delightful piece from the Magic Flute, which does employ the use of the piccolo.